Welcome to Creative Conversations. I'm Roger Humphrey. In this episode, I'm pleased to welcome Suzanne Stumpf and Daniel Ryan, the founding members of the Musicians of the Old Post Road. This unique early music ensemble specializes in presenting lost, forgotten, or rarely performed music from the Baroque and classical periods. Now, in their 37th season, we talk about their beginnings, their musical philosophy, and their new CD, Into the Light. Hey, before we begin, please hit like, follow, and subscribe, and all of the other buttons you see down there. Also, leave a comment. It's an easy thing to do, and it really does help the channel a lot. Thanks. And we are welcoming to this show from the musicians of the Old Post Road Ensemble, Suzanne Stumpf. Did I say that right?
I usually say Stumpf.
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 Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could, and Daniel Ryan, and I could
That's
screw up Ryan too.
That's easy. The Stumpf. I say it the German way.
Okay, Stumpf.
Stumpf.
What she said. I am not going to embarrass myself any more than that. So anyway, Suzanne and Daniel, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Our pleasure.
This is great fun. So, musicians of the Old Post Road. The Old Post Road that I'm aware of is the old postal route between Boston and New York. Do I have that right?
That's correct. And we actually trace, there are a number of routes that went between Boston and New York City.
Okay.
But we trace the oldest one, which is the Upper Road.
Okay.
And that goes somewhat across the state to Worcester and then down towards New York City after that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, if I'm remembering my reading right, a lot of your concerts are along that route. I mean,
That's right.
utilizing the facilities that were there.
That's right. So we took our name. We first invented our concert series because we were looking for a meaningful way to bring historical performance concerts to New England audiences. And from our experiences in Europe, Dan and I had separate experiences in Europe before we met each other, playing on our historical instruments, historical repertoire in historical venues in Germany and Austria and Italy, and that it was just such an incredible combination of elements, putting the instruments and the repertoire in those historic venues, and it's sort of an automatic magical synergy for performers and audience alike. We decided we wanted to try to recreate that in New England. And we did a little poking around. I actually grew up on a town on the Old Post Road, north.
Oh.
And I knew nothing about the Old Post Road per se, except for that it was an old route. And so we researched it and we found out that it flourished from about 1685 until 1840 when the trains took over as the main postal route connecting Boston and New York City. And the very cool thing is those are exactly the years of the period of the span of time that we perform repertoire from.
Oh.
Now, we do Baroque music through the early Romantic from the 80s through the 1840s. And so it was a perfect match. We knew that if we hopped on the road and started tracing it, we'd probably find some historical buildings. And indeed we did. So we approached whoever was the owner of those buildings in those towns, and we began our concert series.
Wow. And the audiences have been receptive, I'm assuming.
Very much so. We're in our 37th season.
Really? 30? Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's a milestone and a half. Not too many people make it past 37 months.
Right. Yeah, we have a very loyal following
Yeah.
in New England. Yeah.
Yeah. People really seem to appreciate the concept and the experience.
So you get this vibe off the building, I'm assuming, that kind of enhances for you as a player, not just for an audience, but I mean, when you're sitting up there and playing, you're getting a certain amount of vibe that kind of helps you a little bit too.
Yeah, not only the historic nature of the building, but also the acoustics of those colonial buildings are just perfect for the repertoire because they're fairly small, and so people, both the performers and the audience, have a very intimate interaction with each other during the concerts.
So I have to tell you, just from a personal perspective, I am a big fan of early music, and have been for many, many, many years. And one I'm a guitar guy, but I play lute music and such. I really love the music, and I've played um, well, I've you know various Baroque pieces. I have to play the Bach because it's Bach. It's just it's the law. You go to musical jail if you don't play Bach on the guitar. And and so well, probably should ask from just being very selfish from a very selfish standpoint. Uh, what are the likely mistakes that I'm making in interpretation? Aside from the fact that I'm playing lute music on a modern guitar, but from an interpretation standpoint, how do things change? How should I be looking at the music?
Um, well, a lot of the pieces you would be playing on guitar by Bach involve dance
Right.
forms. And
Mhm.
so to really know how the dances are danced and what their tempos are is really important. And there's actually a really great book called Dance and the Music of J.S. Bach, where they go through all of the writings about dance and what all his contemporaries said about the dances, and then gives some advice about interpreting Bach according to what all of Bach's contemporaries said about how the dances are danced. And
So
paraphrase.
you do an outreach program and you work with students at various ages. Um, what what are the good things, high points and low points that you get there?
Um, well, we aren't really covering the topic of Bach per se and
No, no, no.
the fine details of
Just
his, but
just
for
just early music in general.
yeah, for our outreach, a lot of the students that we're giving these programs to, well, many of them have not had a lot of introduction to historical instruments at all.
Right.
Some of them, depending on the school systems that they're in, may not even have a lot of experience hearing acoustical instruments in person in the room. So
Right.
sometimes our performances are fairly basic, talking more merely about the historical instruments as instruments. And then we do some visits to schools where the music programs are more developed, in which we can talk about how the technology has changed through the years and how actually the situation of concert making has changed through the centuries and how that has impacted the way the music is written, but also the instruments that are needed in order to project into concert halls. So formerly in the Baroque, earlier in the Baroque, the concerts took place in smaller rooms. So the instruments were fine. They're plenty loud enough to be performed in a
Sure.
salon situation or small courtrooms.
Mhm.
But in the case of the advent of the public concert, when we get more into the classical period and concert halls are larger, the instruments had to become louder in order to be able to project into slightly larger rooms, and then eventually we wind up in symphony halls and so forth. And so the instruments evolved technologically along the way, and the students are always very fascinated to hear about that growth and those technological changes.
Mhm.
I for many years when my grandchildren were still in school, I used to do just little assembly programs at their schools, just and and I can remember on many occasions sitting there with first, second, and third graders sitting on the floor in their gymnasium and the teacher's sitting in the corner or standing in the corner fretting, just waiting to pounce on somebody that got out of line. And I remember very specifically, there's a Boree from Bach's First Lute Suite in E minor that was my introduction to classical guitars. The one piece I said I got to learn that one, and so I play that for the kids, and I tell them if you listen, it is perfect. It's just a short little piece, perfect for their attention span, but it's also just a nice two-part counterpoint. I mean, it's just absolutely exquisite. And so I tell them, if you listen close, it sounds like two people playing at the same time. And I would have a room full of these children sitting there like this, and student or teachers going. And but the children respond to that. If you tell them how to listen,
Right.
That's
they would
right.
respond to that almost immediately. And
Right.
and
That's terrific. Yeah, that's
and
true.
and I find that children really they haven't been told yet that it's not cool, so they just love it.
That's absolutely true.
So I'm
And lots of times with our outreach performances, we're encouraging, especially the students who have had less exposure to classical music or to acoustical instruments in the room.
uh-huh.
We ask them to listen for the storytelling elements or the emotional content of what's going on, and then we query them in between selections. And they're very engaged. You're right. When they're asked questions and encouraged to listen for certain things or open their ears to listen for things, then they tend to be very responsive and they pay great attention, and that's
Yeah,
really rewarding for everyone.
it's great fun. It's great energy. It's a bit like walking on eggshells. You never know if it's going to explode anytime, but for the most part, it's a lot of fun. So now, you guys are active performers. About how many performances do you give a year?
We give concerts both on our concert series, and then we also do some touring and performing for other presenters. So our usual roster of concerts on our series is eight or nine concerts in a year. We usually do 4 or 5 programs, and then we also give concerts for presenters. I think in the upcoming year we have 6 or 7 concerts in addition to that for presenters, and then some outreach concerts beyond that as well.
Well, that's pretty formal. And you're doing like 4 and 5 programs. That's ambitious.
Yeah.
Yes, and every program is unique.
Yes.
We do very little repeats of
We
music we've done before,
we
so
don't
it's
recycle things. So
yeah.
that's our big shtick is we're very interested in finding composers and repertoire that's been lost to audiences for centuries and to bringing them to today's audiences and juxtaposing them or combining them with more familiar composers and familiar works to contextualize actually the work of all the composers because all these greats that we love, they didn't work in a vacuum. And when
Right.
we start exploring the different voices that were around them that may have even been more well known in their day than they are today, then things get very, very interesting. And so that's what we pride ourselves on. So we don't do a lot of repeats of repertoire.
That's
So
that's amazing. I'm gonna
no, we
that's
were expecting that we would just be talking about the Into the Light CD, the new CD.
I would like that very much. Let's talk about that right now, if we may. That's brand new, yes,
Hmm.
and that features the music of I forget. Help me out. You're featuring the music
Christoph
from
Graupner,
yeah. Okay, that's not a name that I know at all.
That's
Talk. Who
part
is
of what we do is we try to revive
composers who have been
composers who have been
lost.
lost, unknown composers.
Yeah.
And Graupner has a very interesting history. Um, the main thing that people would know about Graupner, if they know anything at all, is that when Bach applied for the job at Leipzig, there were 3 candidates. The first was Telemann, who turned it down.
okay?
Second was Graupner, who got a salary increase from his employer, so he turned it down. And the third choice was Bach. So
For
that just
them.
That tells you it tells you something very interesting about Graupner is that he was very, very well thought of and highly reputed in his day, even though his name is pretty much unknown to modern audiences.
Now, is it? Did he write like I'm trying to find a lot of ensemble stuff, or was it like choir, organ, sacred music, or um, Bach, of course, is all over the map. Everything from small pieces to big pieces. So,
um, all of the above.
okay,
He wrote solo keyboard, ensemble, orchestral, and sacred cantatas.
wow,
Very prolific,
Yeah,
very prolific.
and like Bach, he didn't write secular, like he didn't write opera
okay,
or a lot of secular works,
okay. So,
secular vocal works.
okay, so yeah, different from Handel, for example.
Right. So
So,
he hung out in Darmstadt. That's where his main job was with the count was
okay,
his employer there, and he had a very uh, small but intimate ensemble and a group of singers that he worked with. So he worked for many, many years, and so I'm sure they had this wonderful musical community that supported him and performed his works. And after he died, there was a big dispute about his estate. Grobner's heirs wanted to sell all of his music back to
The Count's family,
the
right?
successor of the Count.
Yeah.
But the Count said, "Why should I buy this music back? I already own it. I've
Uh-oh.
already paid for it." But because they didn't have copyright laws,
Sure.
and that was truly Grobner's intellectual property, but they didn't. The Count obviously didn't see it that way, so it went through legal battles,
And it was tied up.
tied up in court for years and years and years, barely escaped the bombings of World War II, but finally it's coming out, and
Just in the past 20 to 30
yeah.
years, it's been starting to come out. There's a Darmstadt society that is in charge of the manuscripts and the works now. So, yeah.
So how are you able to get, do you have to travel there? Are they able to send you copies or?
Yeah,
Yeah, well, it's now freely available. Anybody can look at the copies online.
they put it
through
online.
through the library,
Yeah.
the
Okay.
Darmstadt Library. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and what brought your attention to him and his music?
It's just
Just,
exploring his name. His name came up and so I was like, well, what did he do? And so just reading and looking and finding out where his works were. And then I think initially, we've been doing this long enough that I think initially we didn't just get them online. I think we did have correspondence back and forth.
Yeah, a couple things were published in modern editions. I think the first pieces we may have played were these very kind of quirky pieces for the Shalamo, the early clarinet and bassoon. He wrote music for unusual combinations of instruments, and so we did a performance with those instruments. And then we found a piece for flute and viola d'amore,
Which
which
was
was
beautiful,
very beautiful.
really incredible. And his language, his musical language, is so unlike any other Baroque composers. He has a way of choosing sort of very minimal motifs that he works and reworks and takes you on very interesting harmonic adventures. And there's incredible adventure and passion and drama in how he writes. It's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, unlike any other Baroque composer.
Unlike any other. We just had a pre-season release of the Into the Light CD last
uh-huh.
weekend for subscribers in the Boston area. And we played live for them a few selections from the CD, and they were just blown away, just so wowed by how unusual the repertoire is, and really how exciting or poignant. It's so strong in whatever it does. It's very, very.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing it. There's no question. I haven't had a chance to hear it yet, but it's on the list. I will have listened to the entire thing by the end of the week, I guarantee you. So
Right.
you've got a heck of a band, I have to say right up front. I just absolutely love listening to the pieces that I did listen to, and there's just something about it that a lot of people, I say, when I listen to some historical performances, it's almost like everybody's fighting for space, and your band just kind of blends. There's just a nice communication between the players and the
There's
music.
a great synergy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's really wonderful now.
So 37 seasons, that's amazing. So Into the Light is available where? Is that
It's
through your website or iTunes?
through our website now, and then the official release date for streaming is.
September 26th.
Okay.
So
So
it
then it
should
should
be
appear on all
available
those
on
It
usual.
should
all
be
the,
available by the time this comes out.
yeah, yeah, it
Okay,
should be,
good.
yeah, yeah. And then through our website, we're selling the physical CD, but anyone who buys our physical CD will also be enabled to be able to listen to it online through a website that we've set up. Yeah.
Through
Okay,
special.
and if folks who are watching or listening take the time to check the description below, they'll find your website
Excellent.
address there, so they'll be able to link to it right there.
Great. That's great.
So we'll make sure that people can easily find you. So, so 37 years. Okay, so what has surprised you? How has your journey evolved? Sorry, didn't mean to ambush you.
Oh, that's a great question. It's kind of hard thinking about 37 years, where we were and what we thought. And I think we probably didn't realize how both of us and then later all our group members would become so addicted to finding and playing new things. We started this conversation by talking about Bach and
Right.
how Bach is a must do. And, we all feel that Bach is, of course, a must perform, must learn, must listen, must study. But it's been very interesting how all the new voices that we've brought to the ensemble have really captured everyone's imagination and I think expanded everyone's whole musical expression because of all the different ideas that are now available to us. And
Yeah,
I think also we'll like sometimes when we'll play a new composer that we were unfamiliar with, we'll isn't that a little bit like this other person, but not quite. So it's really interesting the sort of connections that we can draw
Yeah, it
that
was
way.
very interesting. Also, when we started out with making these discoveries rather tentatively, and not all our ensemble members were on board with it.
Ah,
But but as we went along, they developed a greater appreciation, and then were really in on the adventure of it.
Right, yeah. We had one player for many years who was really wanted to play Bach, and that's what they were interested in. And then it was very interesting. We noticed that that person suddenly didn't want us to not do all the new things. They were like, where are the new things for this program? So
Yeah,
yeah,
and our audiences as well. They are really
they're
excited.
captivated.
Yeah,
Yeah,
really
they're
excited.
captivated.
I think my casual observation from people who don't know anything about classical music, that they know even less about early music, and what they know they or think they know, it's mostly uh, yeah, Handel water music or any of the big pieces and any of the Bach stuff like that. Um, and I think if they were to watch, those who do, I think if they go to a program like yours, for example, the intimacy. It's this is not Wagner. This is not Beethoven, and so the intimacy of the small groups in a small room, and it's very captivating, I personally believe. And I think people who don't know much about classical music should take a little time and listen to this, because I think the live experience of listening to four or five, I think you have five people in your group currently,
The chorus five right now.
Yeah,
Yep,
and I'm sure other people come in and out at the times
that's right.
right,
as the music requires.
right.
Absolutely.
That kind of chamber music, I think, is absolutely amazing. I love it. I love it totally. So, and I think others do as well. So, um, you playing some of we played a clip from the Telemann a moment ago. Do you find that there are pieces from really well-known composers that have just gotten buried that nobody ever plays or rarely ever plays? I mean, so when you're looking at, say, music by Telemann, I mean, we understand the style stylistically Telemann, but do you find a piece, tucked away in a drawer somewhere, you go, oh, that's new?
Well, yeah, actually, there were literally new discoveries by famous composers
Of famous
of
composers.
famous,
Uh-huh.
yeah, that are still being made. So
Right.
that's also very exciting. I mean,
Yeah.
there's this beautiful aria by Bach. I don't know if Alles mit Gott, I think it's called, that was tucked away in a drawer because it was a birthday card for one of his patrons, and it was discovered in the 1990s. Um,
So things like that happen.
yeah,
And also, you mentioned Telemann, and Telemann has a ginormous oeuvre. And there are oodles and oodles of cantatas by Telemann, chamber
Uh-huh.
cantatas, that are not performed or rarely performed. So there's so much left to really mine and discover.
I know that there's some pieces that I play by Handel, just little pieces, and they were just um, uh, and I can't remember the name right now, but they were part of a small set. They were a thank you to a host he
Hmm.
was living with, and and they were found many like in the early 20th century
Yeah.
by the current owners and residents. And it's like some kid, some guy's walking past this dresser going, I've walked past that my whole life and I've never opened a drawer. And he opens it up.
Yep.
And there's some original manuscript by Handel in there, which I think is, you know, I don't know how often that type of thing happens, but it seems like it should happen fairly often.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. I'm also reminded we're going to be playing a piece by Handel this season. Um,
Oh,
that's very not very well known. It's the Adagio and Allegro,
uh-huh.
and we came across it because you know how Handel is very famous for taking music from other composers and adapting it to his own,
Right. Hmm.
and from his own music too. Um, and he adapted this piece by Telemann for three violins and continuo into this Adagio and Allegro for flutes and strings, and it's very clever the way he does it, and it's really interesting to compare the two pieces and see how the two composers interacted because Telemann also borrowed things from Handel. As Suzanne said, they weren't um, existing in a vacuum, but they really had lively interaction with each
Yeah,
other. So,
yeah,
And so it's interesting to hear that you have this composer adapting music from this composer, and to hear that blend, so it becomes this not one or two, but it's almost like it's a third entity.
yeah.
yeah,
So the opening concert of our season will be featuring this particular piece, and the overarching theme of the season is brilliant borrowings. And
Oh,
so,
cool.
yes, so we show a variety of these connections between various composers. We're including Chez de Ville's adaptation and reinterpretation of one of the seasons of Vivaldi's Four Seasons, for
Oh,
example. Yeah, which is
okay.
interesting.
yes, and he really messes with it. He makes he changes a lot of the phrasing and adds a few of his own things. And the solo violin part, he was a virtuoso hurdy-gurdy player
Oh, okay.
because of this idea of back to nature in the sort of Rococo French style. There's a lot of
Uh-huh.
interest in that aesthetic, and
Right.
so we brought that to the Four Seasons,
Mhm.
and
It makes sense when you say it out loud, but I never would have thought of
yeah, it's a kind of a wild idea, but
Yeah,
it's really fun to play.
It
yeah.
sounds like it. So, so where are your concerts? Where's the first half of your concert season between now and say the end of the year? Is it still on the various places on the Old Post Road?
Mhm.
Yes, we'll be performing that opening concert in Sudbury, in a historical church in Sudbury, and then a historical church in downtown Boston. Yeah.
Okay. And folks can get these locations off your website, I'm
Yes, that's
sure.
correct. That's
Yes,
correct.
and you should also know that folks can listen to our concerts online. They're
We
being
stream them, so you can
Oh,
listen to
really?
them in Michigan. That's right. Yeah.
Yay! Those of us in the hinterlands.
And that information is on our website too, how to sign up for a streamed concert.
That will be, how, I'm impressed that you guys are able to and are willing to utilize newer technology to reach out. Has that been helpful for you?
Yes, it has, and that started during the pandemic.
Uh-huh.
We needed to be able to reach our audiences safely, so we actually did a remote season during the first year of the pandemic, and we found that we had so many followers that it became worthwhile continuing, even when we were able to go back to in-person audiences. So we've kept that aspect so that people can hear us either from the comfort of their home or they can come hear us in person.
So, and it hasn't diluted your concert audience at all?
no, it's
Not at
expanded
all.
it.
It's
Yeah,
expanded it, yeah. Yeah, and we found now some people who couldn't subscribe previously because they would be either traveling or unable to go to a certain program. Now they do subscribe because for our premier subscribers who are both in person and far away subscribers, they can watch the concert from, their travels in the Caribbean or Europe or Michigan or wherever they might be.
And have access then
And so,
through
so
the end of
therefore
the
they
season.
they do subscribe. So we actually have more total subscribers because we have the remote subscribers, the premier subscribers who have both the hybrid, and then the in-person subscribers.
I've spoke to a number of performers and composers, for that matter, who have talked about how the pandemic just changed. I want to say changed everything, but it made a huge impact on the way they uh, reach their audiences and how they do things with
Mhm.
streaming and YouTube things and so on and so forth.
Yeah, right.
So I think people have come to expect that. I think they're looking for that
Yeah,
anymore, probably more so than before, because it's all we had 5 years ago.
that's
Right.
right.
You
That's
know,
Mhm.
right.
during the lockdown and such, we were pretty much, if it wasn't online, it just wasn't.
Right.
So,
Right.
so I think that's terrific. So, well, folks, I'll tell you what, I think we're about out of time, and I am absolutely thrilled that you took the time to spend with me this morning. I really appreciate it very much.
Thank you so much. We really enjoyed speaking
It
with
was a
you.
pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, well, I hope I'll get you back on this program again real soon.
Okay. Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Enjoy. I'd like to thank Dan and Suzanne for taking the time to talk about their amazing group and to bring us up to date on their new album. If you would like to know more about them or get one of their albums, you can just visit their website. There's a link in the description below. And also, don't forget to go to www.rogerhumphrey.com and subscribe to my blog. It's a great way to get updates on my past guests. And I promise, no spam. Ever. And thank you also for spending time with us. Don't forget to grab some friends and share some of your favorite episodes of Creative Conversations with Roger Humphrey.